Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today we're going to Needham, Massachusetts. That's a suburb of Boston, about 20 minutes from downtown. When I'm out on the road, I like to try to visit organ builder shops when I can and see what they're working on, if they've got something interesting to see. And in this part of the country, there are many to choose from. We ended up going to the Ortloff Organ Company, primarily because Johnathan Ortloff invited me, but also because he had an organ set up in his shop that I was interested to see. Unfortunately, the timing didn't quite work out, and most of the organ was actually taken down by the time we got there. However, later this year, I should be able to see that instrument installed in its new location. Maybe not 100% playing, but at least already all installed, and they'll be doing the tonal finishing. So that's coming up, and I wanted to get a glimpse while we were in the neighborhood. Now, Johnathan Ortloff has been in business at this location since 2014 when he opened his business. Previously, he had worked with Steve Russell in Vermont for about 9 years. He got a degree in engineering from the University of Rochester and a degree in organ from Eastman School of Music. Did those two degrees concurrently, which is pretty amazing. He came to know Steve Russell when he was in high school in his native New York and started working for him when he was in high school. So he's a well-experienced organ builder. The Ortloff Company has built 3 pipe organs, one in Portland, Maine, one in Seattle, and one in Rochester, New York. So they've also done 2 full restorations, and this is their 3rd that they're working on. So not a real old company, but a lot of experience still in the shop. So we're going to go, and Johnathan will tell us about the instrument they're working on right now.
The organ we're working on now is Skinner Opus 653, which was originally built for Fourth Presbyterian Church on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and has been silent for over 50 years because the church was purchased in the 1950s by a Greek Orthodox congregation that doesn't use instrumental music. And it's this perfect time capsule. In fact, the guys from the Organ Clearinghouse who removed it 4 years ago said it is by far the dirtiest organ they've ever worked on, or at least one of the top 3, because it just sat there collecting New York City dust for 70 years. And the restoration itself is a collaboration between a number of firms and individuals. Jason Alden, the organ technician in Dallas, Johnathan Ambrosino, us, Joe Sloan, Chris Broom has restored all the reeds. Peter Rudowitz has, as you saw, been working on flue pipes, and the late Dick Houghton was in charge of restoring the console. So a big collaboration between a lot of good friends, each lending their particular area of expertise to the project. So this is the wood shop, the largest part of the shop, as most organ building shops are, because we make very big things out of wood. This is where we set up organs, and when we need to, once they're set up to a certain point, we bring plastic down to isolate them from the rest of the shop. This here is our famous expanding spray booth that when we got it, a number of organ builders contacted me about, because it has a couple of features that for smaller shops such as ours are really beneficial. First of all, folded all the way up right now, but when you open it up, it can expand out up to 15 feet here. So it can handle basically anything we need size-wise in there. But when we're not spraying anything, like now, when we've got all this stuff all over the shop, it can fold up, go away, and have us another 150 square feet, which is wonderful. It also doesn't vent to the outside like most spray booths do. It has a very sophisticated filtration system in the back, and just pumps the air right back into the shop. I think we're the first organ company to have something like this. It means we're not blowing hot air out of the shop in the winter or cool air out in the summer. All right. So when we're building new organs, we're not so concerned about this kind of thing, but when we're restoring old organs, we take the old organs apart, and this is what their hardware looks like. It's rusty, it's gross looking, and we're cleaning the organ, and we want it to look still old, but fresh. And having rusty screws doesn't look so fresh. So every piece of hardware when we're restoring an organ goes into this machine, which is a bead blaster, which uses very, very fine glass beads to blast the rust away. And so these screws end up looking like these screws. So we have basically every kind of machine we could need for making any kind of wooden part in an organ. I'll point this out over here. We bought this shaper, which is a Cold War big machine, Cold War era big machine made in Poland. And so our big Polish shaper pays homage to our Polish friend Bill Saluzniak down here. We call it the Saluzna shaper. And we can head back into the pipe shop now. So this is the pipe shop, which also doubles as our kind of clean room for doing any sort of work that we want to be, dust-free from the wood shop, like leathering or wiring. And working here now are Peter Rudowitz and his brother Mike. In here we have all the tools and equipment we need for making or repairing, restoring metal pipes. We've got big sinks over here for washing, an ultrasonic cleaner, all the mandrels you see there on the wall. It's not just pipes we deal with back here. You can see we've got the Chimes and the Harp for the organ we're working on now in here because they've been restored, and we want them to remain clean and dust-free as we're regulating them and working on them. Various other tools and patterns. Like I said, this is where we do all of our leather working. So we've got our skins of leather and rubber cloth and felt. Here's a magnet box that's about to be wired. That's ready to go. And this is where once pipes are restored or finished, they get stored before they go into here, which is the voicing room. As I often tell people, because this is usually the last stop on the tour, because it's at the very back of the shop, farthest away from all the noise, this is where all the magic happens. We get pipes in here and they sound like new pipes do, which is usually not great. And then they get voiced in here to sound the way you want them to. In the case of restoration, the voicing work that gets done in here is mostly regulation and not wanting to change the sound of the pipes, but even them out so they are, kind of regular as to where they were set 100 years ago when the organ was new. This stop is the open diapason of the swell organ, and it's in the middle of being regulated and having new stainless steel tuning sleeves fit to it. That doesn't sound very good because it's not in tune yet. The pipes that are back here are always stay there. That's our tuning stop so that we can just tune pipes as we go and just tune them right to that. So this will be done in a couple days' time, but that's the swell diapason. So while most of the pipes we do are, 4 foot or smaller, we do have to do larger pipes, and so we have a chest over here of 12 notes for bass pipes. Now this is the swell 16-foot Borden, and it's just had its stoppers repacked, and we were looking at it, and Johnathan was saying that it had been softened at one point quite a bit to be almost inaudible. And so we've opened it up a bit, and this pipe, for instance, is quite soft. And so what we would do here is look at the toe and see where a pipe that we like is, which is at about 8.5 millimeters for 8-foot E. So this pipe is 8-foot C sharp, so it should be more than 8.5 millimeters, and it's not even 8. See, there's the 8. It's not even 8. So what we would do here is take a little bit of metal away with the countersink, and then again using our toe hole gauge, maybe we'll take this up to 9 or 9.5, something like that. And knowing how much, we had one pipe that's 4 notes away, that was at 8.5. What should this one be? Well, 9.5 from experience tells us that that might be about right. Also, knowing what pressure it's on helps you determine that. So that might be right. There might be a few other adjustments we might make to it, but that gets us kind of in the ballpark. So that kind of work is the kind of voicing work that is done in a restoration, where we're not cutting pipes up, we're not nicking them, we're not really changing anything about them. We're kind of finding where that balance point is of, between the softs and the louds, and just regulating them all to be where they ought to be. And Johnathan Ambrosino, better than just about anybody, knows what Skinner pipes should sound like. So this organ's very lucky that he's the one doing most of this work. So the 4-foot flute in the swell, like many swell 4-foot flutes and Skinner organs, is a triangle flute. And you can see why it's called a triangle flute. For all the trouble that goes into its construction, it has a pretty kind of normal, just soft melodia kind of sound. But because they're triangular, they fit much better on the chest, so you can really pack them in. So I'm sure you've heard them, but I doubt you've seen many up close, but this is a famous Skinner harp. I'd be curious to know just how many they made. I think it was probably scores of them, if not hundreds. It's like an orchestral celesta. It's 61 notes. It plays at 4-foot pitch and then also at 8-foot pitch without the bottom octave. And it's struck pneumatically, of course, because it's an electro-pneumatic organ, but it's struck with piano hammers. Piano hammers of course, varying sizes, larger for the larger bars and smaller for the smaller ones. Plug the blower in. If you're sad that your organ doesn't have a harp, there's probably a good chance it might have chimes. Chimes are certainly more ubiquitous in pipe organs than harps or other percussion is. They're frankly less expensive to make than a 61-note harp. This is the set that was in this organ originally, but a new action. The original electric action that was with these tubes got soaked in the organ's previous home. So we have fitted these chimes to a new action. Now, the hammers that strike these chimes were originally wood. And this is it's either wood or very hard leather. It's really hard to tell because it's so old and desiccated. And they had really worn out. And we were not sure what to do about that because they don't sound very good. They're just very soft. And knowing that these chimes are going to be in an echo organ buried under the floor of the chapel, coming up through a pretty small grate, we wanted you actually, to be able to hear them. But we weren't sure how to make new hammers until a colleague of ours said, this is a perfect job for a 3D printer. So that, based on a drawing by this friend of ours, was 3D printed by another friend of ours. And he printed them in different hardnesses, because you can get all different hardnesses of the printer resin. And he selected the hardest one first, and we are very happy with it. Let's compare the old one to the new one. That's a lot better. And the best part is we can leave a whole basket of 3D printed hammers for the next person who restores it once these ones are worn out. So the same fellow who worked so hard to restore the harp, or to voice the harp, has been spent a couple days going through these, and it's been an interesting process watching him do it, because he's coming at percussion from, you know, a human struck perspective and how they're used in the orchestra. And as he said, you know, this, you know, any conductor in the orchestra would say, I need it about 4 times as loud as that. But of course, for echo chimes in a church, these will do just fine. So he's working on these, and he'll be done in a few days. And then these will get all packed up and shipped off along with the harp. Listen to those ring. So this organ was prepared for, had one stop prepared for in the swell. And you know that most stops and organs that are prepared for never actually get put in. In this case, it's an 8-foot aeoline in the swell. And 100 years later, we are completing that preparation with authentic Skinner pipes. They're authentic Skinner pipes actually from a few different organs. Bass from someplace, treble from someplace, with some fill-ins from another. And they're in a little bit rougher shape than the pipes, the rest of the pipes that are from this organ. So Peter's spending a lot of time re-rounding them. Right now, straightening ears out. They've been washed, and we'll get new tuning sleeves put on them, and then they'll go into the voicing room where where Johnathan will marry these 3 sets of pipes from 3 different organs to sound right. So in 19th and 20th and even 21st century organs, bass pipes are frequently made of zinc. Zinc is a lightweight metal that is strong, so it supports itself very well. And so all of the basses, the metal basses in the Skinner organ, are made of zinc. Zinc needs to have a finish applied to it, or else it will start to oxidize. The Skinner folks used shellac, and the shellac over years had degraded and was dirty. So the shellac has been stripped off all these pipes in the sink there with alcohol, and will be sprayed with new shellac, making them look brand old. That's a Jeff Weilerism. So these are the bases of, these are the swell bases. So diapason, solutional, celeste. Yeah. See which one of these is F. Of course, it's on the bottom of the stack. These 2 pipes play the same note. So the thought is, you know, this is the swell roar flute. And I am quite sure that I do not have the lung capacity to play this, but I'm going to try. Not a chance, because there's just so much volume in here. The thought was that if you don't have an open diapason in the pedal, to make the biggest bourdon you can and push it hard, and that will make up for the lack of having a big open stop. And it does in kind of that fundamental way, but you don't get the overtones that develop, of course, from an open stop. We've actually elected not to bring the 16-foot octave of this stop here because the pipes are just so big. In fact, here's the stopper from bottom C, which is about as big as some 32-foot bourdon stoppers are. Because, you know, if we brought them back here, we would just be major bassed out of house and home. So, I mean, they make a really impressive show all stacked up like this. And some folks on Facebook who've seen photos of these posted have said, oh my gosh, it's a Skinner tibia. And, you know, it kind of is. It's about the right scale. It's just not cut up as high as a tibia would be. But it does make quite a hooty noise. The lovely thing about the chapel it's going into is that it's a very good room for bass. So this won't have to be pushed very hard, and it'll sound quite good in there. So in order for a stopped pipe to work, it has to be stopped, meaning that the seal of the stopper here has to be absolutely tight all the way around. And particularly in these organs that are on high pressure, they need to be absolutely stopped. So these stoppers they're nice and tight. They're really well done by our man Bart. So Skinner put cork around them there, which we haven't touched. It's in fine shape, but the leather that was originally around them did need to be replaced. So we've done that. They also need a little bit of lubrication. And originally, organ builders used tallow, rendered animal fat, which works, but it dries out and it loses some of its lubrication property. And so we have found, actually through colleagues, a wonderful product that everybody has in their home. It's the wax ring under your toilet. And so we've got bags full of toilet wax, which is really supposed to stay soft and pliable, and that works really well. And the inside of the pipe gets doped up with that, and then the stopper leather does as well. It slides in. You got yourself a stopped pipe. So there's a difference, of course, between building new organs and restoring old organs. And there's an even bigger difference between building new organs and restoring old organs that aren't going back into their original home. And that's what's happening with this instrument, Skinner Opus 563. It was originally in the gallery of the Fourth Presbyterian Church in New York City on the Upper West Side in a freestanding case in the gallery, which is very rare for a Skinner. And now it's going into 2 chambers divided on either side of the chancel. So that obviously poses some challenges in terms of making it fit, reorganizing everything. And before the decision was made to buy the organ, we did a few preliminary drawings to make sure that it would fit. And in fact, if the 16-foot trombone chest and the pedal had been, and I kid you not, 1 inch longer, I don't think they would have bought the organ, because there would have been no way to fit it and the rest of the organ in the chambers. So we're very lucky that way. So it means that we have to reorganize the organ, but we want to keep as much of the original configuration, original structure as we can. And so we went through several months of trial designs, just all in CAD on the computer, to see, okay, this is how it was built, this is how it is in New York, how much of this can we simply pick up and put back down? And I would say maybe about 30% of this organ is like that. So, it could be worse. And then otherwise, we have to, kind of design things from the ground up. We're fortunate that we have the original Skinner blueprints. They're held by the Organ Historical Society, and they've all been digitized, so you can write to them and request them. And so there are 2 large drawings, one which is mostly just swell shutters and swell box panels, and the other which is the actual layout of the organ as they would have built it from. And so using those, even with the organ all taken apart, we can know how things were put together. So using that data, our own measurements, and then playing a lot in CAD, we figure out how's it going to be laid out in the new location. When we are making alterations, we want the alterations that we do to look like they belong. And kind of one of the most important things in that regard is using the same materials. Most Skinner organs are mostly made out of #1 California sugar pine, which is very hard to get now because all those trees have been cut down almost. We are very fortunate to have, when Nelson Barden closed his shop, we got and there's actually not much left of it now, but what I was calling the Strategic Sugar Pine Reserve. Both of these carts were filled with pieces of wood like this, big, thick, long pieces of sugar pine, which we've used to modify, make new legs, new bearers, all kinds of new structure, so that it blends in with the old. There's a great example of blending old with new right here. This leg, which holds up the swell division with a chest down here and a chest up there, needed to be about 3.5 inches wider. So we pulled a piece of sugar pine out of the pile and attached it on, and then finished it in amber shellac. So you can tell it's different, but it fits in with kind of the general color scheme, the palette of the organ. And we use a shellac that's been tinted with stains and dyes so that it is closer to the kind of general color that all this old sugar pine is, but it's not exactly that. So all of this wood here makes up the structure and swell boxes of the swell department. And then the last division of the organ to be set up is the echo, which is going in a chamber in the basement, excavated out of the dirt in the crawl space beneath the chapel, and will speak up through a tone chute and through a 3-foot square grill under the pews at the back of the chapel. So this will truly be the mysterious echo division. It has 2 stops in it, a chimney flute and a vox humana, but also the harp and chimes are in there as well. The harp originally was in the choir division, but we didn't have the depth of the chamber. As you saw, the harp takes up quite a bit of real estate, and there was just no way to fit it in the choir chamber, so we thought, well, let's put it in the echo. It'll be even more mysterious floating up out of the floor. The echo division is the only division in the organ that's going back, at least layout-wise, exactly as it was, which is great, because it means that all of the legs can be reused exactly as they are, but more importantly, all of the wind lines and the lead tubes, which I'll show you over there, can go back exactly as they were, which is a lot of work to recreate. So here we have the wind line, the original wind line, which feeds the 8-note offset chest for the base of the chimney flute. It will attach to the underside of the reservoir and will go up into the offset chest for the chimney flute exactly as it was. So we do not have to remake this. Here's the wind line that fed the swell shade motor. It's going to have a little piece extended on there, but we'll be able to use that after cleaning it, of course, exactly as it was. So no, this is not a modern art installation at Ortloff Organ Company. These are all the wind lines for the swell division of Skinner Opus 653. That division was completely reorganized because originally the swell chest sat side by side, a 7-stop chest here and a 7-stop chest here. And now they're going like this. So you can imagine that just scrambles everything. So we have made new galvanized metal wind lines in the style that Skinner did. We have Skinner reproduction flanges, and the wind lines are all soldered together just as they were back in 1927 to be airtight. And it is kind of truly a thing of beauty to look at these all put together, feeding all these various chests and swell motors and tremolos all over the chamber. And making them here, of course, means that once we get on site, we don't have to make anything. They just all go together, screw in, and the organ is winded. This represents about 4 weeks of work. It's a lot of work making metal wind lines, and it's kind of it's kind of dirty and kind of rough work. You know, you have to wear gloves because this is all very sharp and your hands get cut, and you're using acid for flux, and you know, it's just all kind of dirty. But the results, once you clean them up, are beautiful, and it's the way Skinner would have done it. It's the way Skinner did do it. And so again, we know that nobody's going to confuse this Windline for that older one that I showed you over there, but it's of the aesthetic, which is the whole point of this project, is to keep the aesthetic the same and change as little as possible. Yeah. Oh, I'll show you something over here because I mentioned it over there. Ernest Skinner was one of the first organ builders to really grasp what electricity could do for the pipe organ, kind of on a whole instrument scale. But he was kind of conservative in how he deployed it. And one of the ways that shows is in the way he actuated his offset chests. You know, normally in a modern organ, you know, you have the main chest here, and then over there are the bases, which have, you know, a separate magnet for each pipe. And that's how they play. Skinner could have done that, but it would have required either additional contacts under each key or relays, which he was loath to use. So what he did instead was something that actually harkens back to 19th century technology, and that's using pneumatic signals. So you put, let's see, you attach this down to the chest where the bass pipes would go, and then it becomes a lead tube, and it's fed through here and through a series of manifolds, and more lead tube, and more lead tube, and finally more lead tube, which then attaches to the front of the offset chest. And that little pneumatic puff from the main chest is the signal through all these lead tubes, which makes the action go on the offset chest and plays the bass chest. It's brilliant, it's simple, there are fewer moving parts, it's trouble-free, and as much as possible, we have retained this in this organ. That's one of the other reasons that we wanted to, as much as we could, keep things in relationship to each other the way they were originally. Because doing all this for, you know, having to move a chest, you know, 6 inches is a whole lot of work. So let's try to keep that chest, you know, where it was. And it's possible also to kind of hack these chests up and install magnets in them, and you have to reverse the primaries so they operate a different way. And it's like, why would you go to all that trouble when you can just, you know, keep this like this? Especially in an organ that's just being restored and not moved. But in this project, we've tried to do that as much as possible.
Johnathan, thank you so much for the tour of the shop. And Opus, what was the Opus number?
563.
563 Skinner. Amazing to see all of this 100-year-old organ parts looking brand new, really.
Brand old.
Brand old. Thank you, Jeff. And yeah, and see this gigantic major bass. It's just mind-blowing. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you enjoyed the tour, then please give Johnathan a thumbs up down below. And make sure you subscribe to our channel and click the little bell to get notifications. We have some more videos coming out from the Boston area, and hopefully we'll be returning in the not-too-distant future because these guys take care of a lot of the organs around here. What's your website?
Ortlofforgan.com.
So we'll put a link down in the description. If you're around here and you're looking for somebody to take care of your organ, this is your guy to go to. And even if you're somewhere else in the country and thinking about a new organ or a restoration, Ortloff Organ is a great place to turn. So look for them. There's a link down below. You can also find a link to our website where you can become a sponsor of the Organ Media Foundation and help us get to places like this and meet people like Johnathan. You can do that by going to organ.media and clicking on support. We are a 501c3, so your donations can be tax deductible, and all of it goes to making great videos like this one. Until our next videos are out, remember you can always find streaming classical organ music on our 3 stations, organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and the Organ Experience. Thank you again, Johnathan.
Pleasure.
I look forward to hearing this organ in its new home, hopefully later this year.
Yeah.
We'll get to visit and bring it to you, so make sure you continue to watch. Until then, I'm Brent Johnson. Thank you for watching.